Hello, contractors, and welcome to Toolbox for the Trades. My name is Jackie Aubel, and today I am speaking with Morgan Chapman, the VP of Friends Plumbing in Tampa Bay, Florida. On today's episode, Morgan shares what it's like to navigate family dynamics in the trades, especially as a new mother. I hope you enjoy Morgan's story as much as I did. Morgan Chapman, you are the VP of Friends Plumbing in Tampa Bay, Florida. Today, we're going to be talking about your experience as a woman in the trades, navigating family dynamics in business, and the exciting things happening at Friends Plumbing. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Jackie. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited for you to be here too. We are going to kick this conversation off the way I love to, with an icebreaker. And then whenever I can, I try and make an icebreaker that has nothing to do with the industry. And lucky for me, you have a very interesting background. So I want to know, since you were a cheerleader for so long, what's the most challenging routine that you ever had to learn?
Oh gosh. Well, I would have to say when I was 16 years old, my parents let me join a brand new cheerleading gym that was 45 minutes away from her house. I went there and was put on a co-ed team, which was super exciting because I was preparing to be a college cheerleader. I was on a team with coaches. They were staff at the gym. They were much older than me. I was the youngest one on the team, and I felt so much pressure learning that routine for that year. Just being on a team with other coaches and former cheerleaders, it was very nerve wracking, but it was honestly the best experience and led me to ultimately cheering in college. But I have to say that every routine that I learned was challenging. We'd have choreographers come in, we'd learn a whole new routine, and I would just think like, how are we going to memorize this and be successful and win with this routine. And then, of course, by the end of the year, you can do that routine in your sleep, all just to
Yeah.
learn a new one the next year. But yeah, kind of like business, right? You go through challenges and then the next one comes up and you realize, oh, I got through that last challenge. This one won't be that bad.
Yeah, exactly. And we were talking prior when we were setting up this podcast. I was talking to you about how my sister cheered in high school, but she was one of the more like stabilizing cheerleaders. You were a flyer because you're because
I
you're
was.
you're compact, right?
Yeah.
Um, just out of curiosity, how do you even get to that point where you're like, I'm gonna fling myself into the air, do a couple of twirls, and then I know I will be safely received upon my return to the earth?
Yes, it takes a lot of trust for sure. And for reference, I'm 5 foot on a good day.
Incredible. So fun. Okay, so let's get into plumbing. So, for folks
Yes.
who don't know, tell us about Friends Plumbing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my father, Monty, started the company 45 years ago. He moved down from Michigan to Florida. His uncle was actually a plumber in Michigan. So, he had already, had his plumbing license, came down to Florida, was working with a friend whose name was Grant Friend. His last name was Friend. They played softball together and they had a great friendship and ultimately ended up doing plumbing together. Grant decided it wasn't something he wanted to do. He moved away out of state, and my dad decided we're gonna start Friends Plumbing, and we're gonna keep the name Friends. And Grant was totally cool with that. 45 years later, here we are, and it's been amazing. We've been a part of the community. We take so much pride in that, and we strive for top notch service, professionalism, cleanliness, and really just being the best that we can be and being that go to plumber for the area. So, yeah, that's a little bit about us.
That's awesome. And you guys focus mainly on residential service and replacement, right?
We do. Yeah.
All right, cool. So, how did you get involved in the company?
I have always been around the business. I'm 31 years old, very, very close with my dad. We talk all day, every day when I was in college and I was kind of in and out of the office, kind of learning, but not actually working here. And then so after college, I decided to come join the business for a little bit, but I also had a degree in sociology. I was still seeking opportunities to use my degree and go out and do something in that. So ultimately got into sales and did sales for 3 years. And then COVID happened and I found myself back here and again helping in the office and answering phones. And I was able to really just hone in on where we could improve and observe my dad and learn from him. And it just felt like some place that I could never leave now that I was back and I felt like I could really add value. And so I started focusing on the CSR department and improving that area And so we hired and fired accordingly, and we put in systems and processes, and we got Service Titan in 2019. So we had just gotten it right before I started working with my dad full time. Just really, really focusing on the areas where we could improve and learning the business, the day to day, starting from the bottom, answering the phones and refilling my dad's water bottles, and just doing everything that he asked me to do and just learning in and outs, but really focusing on building our culture too, building the culture and focusing on the value, really instilling that in our new hires. Like, this is our expectations. These are our values, our core values here, and what we want, and how to get people engaged and the team members engaged and incentivize them and make everyone feel like one big family. And I always
Mhm.
come in and I say hi to everyone. I say, "Hi, friends,"
Oh,
and
funny. Yes.
yeah.
Funny.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's
Very,
kind
very
of a little bit about
cool.
how I got into it.
Awesome. And so since you've joined, you've been focusing on sales, on optimizing the CSR department, building up that culture, and really being mindful with new hires and setting expectations for those new hires. So let's get a
Yeah,
little bit more granular into that. Let's start with maybe the CSR side of things. So you had worked in sales prior to joining Friends Plumbing, and what that was one of the
yeah.
areas of opportunity you saw. So tell me how you approached the CSR side of things and the sales side of things, and try to get as specific as possible.
When I first started, just by listening to some of the CSR's calls and knowing like my background and kind of just the lack of customer service that I knew
Mm,
that we would be able to provide, and I just thought to myself, wow, like my dad has already built such an incredible company, right, in the last 40 some years at that time. And how amazing would it be if we actually hired people with CSR experience?
mm,
And with that background, because my dad being the generous, amazing person that he is, he would hire, so and so's friend or this person or a referral. And although they did a fine job, it's not like they were horrible. It just they didn't have that experience and didn't have the training and kind of expertise that I was looking for. So when I
sure.
really dove into the hiring process, it's of course started with like who we are and what we represent and our values as a company, and are these people a good match for us? And so I
Mhm.
really took that seriously and took a lot of pride in that as well, finding the right people for us. And it did not come easy. We had to hire a few people and then we let people go, and it wasn't a good fit. And I quickly realized that you can train certain skills and you can't train certain skills. And people sometimes just either have that special thing that you're looking for or they don't. And then, of course, there's skills that can always be trained. When it comes to technology and Service Titan stuff, like we're happy to have people come in with experience, but at the same time, if they didn't have the personality and, the drive and the passion that we were really looking for, then they weren't going to be a good fit here for us.
So I want to pivot a bit to working in a family business. So you mentioned that you and your dad already had a really great relationship. And I should say that's not exactly always the case when I talk to second or third generations who are coming into the business. A lot of the times, folks bump heads with their parents or their relatives who also work in the business. So I want to know how that's worked out for you. I know your brother also has the title of vice president. So how do you guys work together as a family?
We work really well together, but I will say that every family has their challenges. It is not all perfect anywhere,
Mhm.
especially working with family. It comes with its challenges and unique advantages too. It really does. So, like I said, my dad and I were very close, but coming into the business, we absolutely butted heads, as well as my brother. But over time, we've built a very strong relationship and we understand each other and realize that we're all human. We're all navigating through this life together and figuring it out. This is my dad's first time being a parent, like our first time being business partners, and just kind of navigating through that together and giving each other grace. And I think realizing that I can only control me, I can't control other people, but understanding each other and knowing that we all have the best interest of the company. At the end of the day, we share that value, that ultimate goal of the business is success. And so that's what drives us and helps us set aside our differences when we agree to disagree or just disagree in general.
Yeah, for sure. It sounds like you
Yeah.
guys just are constantly reminding one another that you're on the same team, that you're working towards
Yes.
the same goal. Very
Exactly.
cool. So what's the differences between you and your brother's roles? So do you guys have any clear boundaries or role delineations to kind of help you guys, I don't want to say keep the peace, but keep things moving in the right direction?
I love this question because my brother and I are 7 years apart, me
Mm,
being the older sibling. We definitely struggle sometimes with each other's opinions, but we have this amazing opportunity here with my dad being a from the boomer generation, me being a millennial, and my brother being Gen Z, that we all bring something special to the table. And I think that for my dad, he has a ton of knowledge. Like, he's 67, he's got the experience, and he's always teaching us stuff. Yeah, and we have to like listen, and even if it's not the way we think or the ideas that we have, like, we have to listen and trust that he has the knowledge and experience that we can't get anywhere else.
sure.
And for my brother is amazing at marketing and technology. Um, so that is his specialty, and he really hones in on that, and he's so good at it. And for me, I'm the people person. I love working with people. I love managing people. I love dealing with the people problems. you know. So yeah, I just think we have an amazing opportunity here that not many people have.
Very cool. How have your family dynamics evolved since you guys have been working together?
We've come a long way. No, we have. I think just separating, personal life and business, and finding that fine line, and just communicating with each other and explaining, I hear you, I see you, I understand you, and just being there for each other. And it's not always easy. We 100% butt heads. At the end of the day, we're all here for the same reason, and we all care so much. And sometimes, when you're dealing with family, it can come across harsh, or, take it more personally, when really it's just easier to be that way around family. And so I think it's important for us to reflect every day, like, we have to be respectful of each other. How
Mm.
can we expect everyone else to respect us if we're not respecting each other, no matter what we're discussing? We just have to be respectful of each other's opinions, and we've gotten a lot better with that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point to make because as a leadership team, if you guys are constantly butting heads or fighting, that's going to trickle down to the rest of your organization and it's going to
Right.
potentially cause some systemic issues. So I'm glad you brought that up because you're essentially
Yeah.
setting an example.
Exactly. Yeah, it starts with us and our intentions going into the day. And like I said, I can only control me, but I hope that, if I come in, with a good attitude and an open mind, and like, positivity, that I can hopefully rub off on other people.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. So speaking of, how you've grown and changed, you became a mother recently.
I did.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I would love to learn how you approach work-life balance ever since this has happened and what strategies have you found effective in managing the demands of both career and family, which
Yeah.
kind of for you overlap a bit.
Yeah. Yes, they do. So to me, being a mom is the most important and amazing thing that I'll ever do in my life. And it's made me a better person. It's made me a better leader. It's made me more patient. It's helped me with business and life in general, and really just giving other people grace and giving myself grace. And it's a constant juggling act, especially feeling guilty in one way or the other. Like, I am either feeling guilty if I'm not at work with family, or I'm feeling guilty for not being at home with my son. It's a constant juggling act, but also just really focusing on that quality time with him, and knowing that when I come home, like, check out for a little bit, spend that quality time with him, because that's what he's going to remember the most, rather than me being gone at work. But you really can thrive in both roles if you have the right mindset and you have a good support system. For me, I really focus on my mental health, and
Mm.
that's a huge priority for me. And I know that I can't be the best business partner. I can't be the best daughter and mom and wife that I want to be if I'm not taking care of myself first. And I always tell all of our employees that too. Like, you have to take care of yourselves. It's non-negotiable. You're better for everyone in your life. You're better for yourself and better in the world. And that's something that I really, really take seriously.
I want to give you so much credit. I have a therapy background, and the fact that you identified as a former people pleaser or a people pleaser in recovery, which is sometimes the terminology I use, I think it's really important that that is such a big value for it, and that is such a big value for you, and that you communicate that to your team members as well. Because I 1,000% agree with you on that. If this is too personal, you can totally pass, but I would love to hear a little bit about what it was like for you to kind of get to that mindset of like, I need to start taking care of myself, because if I can't take care of myself, I can't take care of the people that I love or show up in the way that I want to.
I think firsthand, I've seen the damages that can be done if you don't prioritize yourself and take care of yourself. I've seen it. I've been around it. And for me, it's a non-negotiable. And I know that, and I just don't like the way I feel when I'm not my best. You
Sure.
know, like
Yeah.
I feel
Same.
like I'm letting other people down. I'm letting myself down. And it did take time and therapy and just really becoming more self-aware of those things. I don't think you ever have it figured out. I like to call it work life imbalance. You're always kind of figuring out, maybe this week I have to work more and the weekend I'm going to spend more time with my family, and you find whatever that balance is for you in your life, and I think it looks different for everybody. And so it's important to give yourself some grace and just be aware that it's okay, no one has it figured out.
Yeah. I'm thinking about the people that may be listening to our conversation right now. And, you are, it sounds like a leader who's very cognizant of mental health and how important it is. So I would imagine if an employee came up to you and was like, "Hey, Morgan, I'm really struggling. Like, how can you support me?" You would be like, "Yep, let's figure something out."
Yeah.
What would you say to a stranger listening who's in the trades, maybe another woman in the trades who is really struggling with that work life balance? Maybe they're a new mom like you are and they just can't make it. They're really struggling with making it work. How would you advise them to approach making any changes?
I would say don't be afraid to ask for help, and don't be afraid to take care of yourself and put yourself first.
Hmm.
Take the time for you, and it will make such a huge difference. Whatever, and self-care looks different for everybody, right? So you have to do what's best for you and just take care of your mental health, and that it's so important so you can be the best mom and the best employee, whatever it is that you're wanting to be better at. But give yourself grace. It's difficult for a lot of people, and I think it's something that's not talked about enough. And so just know that you're not alone, and don't be afraid to ask for help. I know for me, I'm very independent. I do everything myself. Like, I don't need anyone. But those are always the people that they really do need someone to be there for them, and they're not always willing to speak up and ask for that help. So don't be afraid to do that. It doesn't make you less of a mom or less of a good business owner or anything like that. In fact, it makes you better.
Yeah. Well, let's flip the script now, right? What would you say to other owners about why it's so important to prioritize mental health
Uh-huh.
and kind of be the rally, like make that a rallying cry for your workforce? Why do you think it's so important to talk about this stuff and be open about this stuff from an owner's perspective?
I have seen firsthand, for starting out working with my dad and just being around it in general, like he's 67. He is tired. He's put in the work. He deserves a break, you
Shout
know?
out to my dad, who I think is also
Yeah.
tired. Yeah. Go for it.
He's burnt out. And a lot of business owners are. And I think that that entrepreneurial mindset is I have to do everything. Like nobody else can do it as good as me. And you're right. No one can. But if you're not willing to take that time to delegate and teach other people what you need to do to take stuff off your plate, ultimately you're doing everyone a disservice, because you're going to get burnt out, you're going to be tired, you're going to take it out on your employees, and that's not the person that you want to be, and I'm
Hmm.
sure you don't feel good about it when you are like that. Like, no one does. So it's so important to focus on taking that time for yourself, making yourself better so you can show up as the best business owner that you can be, and being self-aware, like, hey, I could probably use a break. I'm going to take a 30-minute break, or even like a 10-minute walk, or whatever it is, that you need to do to kind of recharge and then come back, and you'll feel better for sure. But again, self-care and taking care of your mental health looks different for everybody. You have to do what's best for you. And I think it just starts with being aware of it. Yeah, just taking those first steps.
All right. Well, I want to talk a little bit because you've got some really great advice here and some really great insight. What advice would you give to young women considering a career in the trades? And what, in your opinion, I'd love to hear how you think the trades in general can work to become more inclusive and supportive of female professionals.
Yeah, just do it. Um, just do it. Don't second guess yourself. When I first started in the trades, it was very lonely, especially being a female. And I think a lot of women feel that way in the trades. But you're not alone. And there's times where I would walk into a room and feel like I needed to prove myself before I even spoke. I know that's not true, but it's just a feeling. And so I think just don't think like that. Be confident, hold your head up, be proud of what you're doing because it's really awesome. We get to make a change every day and make someone's lives better and provide solutions. And it's a really, really awesome opportunity that we have. And most people don't think of the trades that way. Take the time to invest in yourself. Hire a business coach or a life coach, listen to podcasts, read books, invest in yourself, and then work for a company that wants to invest in you too. Work for a
Mhm.
company that supports women in the trade, that lifts you up. Those are the places that you want to work, and those are the places that are going to go far. I'm very fortunate that I have my dad and my brother who are very supportive, but it takes time. It takes time and building those relationships. And we got to a point, where it's like, hey, we're all in this together. We're a team, and you know, I got your back, you got my back.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
really cool. My brother's the one who actually introduced me to the Lady Titans group. And my first Pantheon was this last year. And he was like, these are the people that you need to meet. Like, they're awesome, this and that. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. Just being there was just an incredible experience. Walking into that first night event for championing women in the trades and not feeling alone and feeling so supported and being able to network with people, go to the toolbox lives, network with people when you can. It makes such a difference. And just know that the the women support groups and just the support in general is unmatched in the trades. And once you realize that, you'll feel confident to take on the world and we can be unstoppable.
Yeah, amazing shout out to Lady Titans. That group is fantastic. I love them and I love the work that they're doing. And I will say, you joined Friends in 2019. I joined Service Titan in 2017. And when I first started interviewing, it would be so hard for me to find women in this industry. And I will
Hmm.
say, in just 7.5 years, I'm doing a bunch of podcast recordings in the next couple of weeks. Most of them are women, which is so
Yeah,
cool to
it's
me.
so
So
cool.
but
I
it is,
love it.
it's slow going and it's
It
still
is.
something that we have to work towards. So I love showcasing voices like yours and hearing that you've got all that wonderful support from your team and from your family and lifting you
Yeah.
up in that way. So we're coming to the end of our conversation. I would love to know what's next for Friends Plumbing.
We're in a very exciting stage of growth. So many awesome things happening, but with a lot of growth comes a lot of growing pains. So we're navigating through all of that and trying to perfect our systems and processes, continue to build our culture and hire. We're growing, which is a great thing. We're outgrowing our building. We're looking for new space. All exciting things. We're going through a rebrand.
Oh,
So
fun.
yeah, so it's just all amazing, exciting things that are scary and challenging, but we're working through it. We're gonna give my dad a heart attack, hopefully not in the process.
Oh my
but
gosh.
but
So
yeah,
is
it's good.
for folks watching on YouTube, is your logo that's on your shirt right now, is it the old logo or the new
A
logo?
new one.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah.
It's very clean. Very
Thank
cool.
you.
Oh, that's exciting. The name Friends is like kudos to your dad's friend who let him use that last name.
Yes.
There's so many ways to have fun with that from a marketing perspective.
There is, and we love the name. We would never change it. And it's the history of our company and we love it. We're your friends.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining me, Morgan. And I had a great time with this conversation, and I'm glad you did too.
I did. Thank you, Jackie.